Alright guys, welcome to this very short Exodia Millennium guide here. This is one of the easiest decks that you will ever see. It's super easy. I will show you a one card combo with your best starter, basically a Sangagen, Wakes from a Millennium, and then we'll go over the cards and I will show you a deck list that you can go ahead and play. This is super easy, not really hard to understand as you have only one major play that you want to achieve. So we are starting with the Sangagen here, and Sangagen says that it cannot be destroyed by monster effects and we can only use each effect of Sangagen once per turn. If this card is in our hand, we can place it in our spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous spell, and while this card is a continuous spell, we can either pay 2000 life points or reveal one Millennium Ankh, our core card, in our hand to special summon this card. Then we can add one Millennium monster from deck to hand. So this is what we are going to do now. We are going to set him, since we do not have a Millennium Ankh, pay 2000, and then we are going to add the Millennium Shield. Basically, you can also add the Blue Eyes Dragon, but the shield gives us an extra body, whereas the Blue Eyes Dragon, I will show you this in a second, gives you an extra interruption in your graveyard. The shield says cannot be destroyed by spell trap effects. You can only use each once. If this card is in your hand, you can place it in your spell trap zone as a face-up continuous spell, and while this card is a continuous spell, once again, like the Sangagen, you can either pay 2000 life points or reveal one Millennium Ankh in your hand, special summon this card, then you can add one Millennium Ankh. So this can search a Millennium monster, this can search the Millennium Ankh, which the Millennium Ankh is the core card that we want to get to, but if we want to establish two bodies first. This is what we are going to do now. So here comes the shield, and now we want to use up our two bodies. Here comes our Ankh, in this case making a Silhouette Rabbit. There's a specific reason why we activate the rabbit. This card you should already know, to set an interruption here for our opponent's turn, the Angel statue Azurune, which is basically an inherent summon negate, meaning negate, for example, of Fenrir, of a Diabellstar that comes from hand without effect, or of any monster from the extra deck. So now we have our Millennium Ankh here, our main card. Show 5 Forbidden One monster cards from your hand, deck, and or face up field, then special summon one, the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate from your extra deck, our boss monster. Then shuffle the face up monster cards you control into the deck, except Exodia monster cards whose original levels are 10 or higher, and Millennium monster cards. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn. So this is basically the reason why we are making a rabbit here and not something else. We don't climb into an Appaloosa, because we will shuffle back anything that is not Millennium or Exodia. So there is no real need, no sense in making and building a board, which is also why this deck is super easy, because you will just shuffle back everything. Then we are going to set the statue, activate the Ankh, showing our opponent all of the Exodia pieces. This is happening in the right corner, you don't see it right now, but we show them all the pieces and you will see we have all of them in our deck to grab our boss monster, the Unstoppable Exodia, shuffle that back into the deck. It says 5 Forbidden One monsters cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect once per turn. If this card battles during damage calculation, we can make this card gain attack equal to our life points, so it cannot be destroyed by battle basically. Once per turn, when a spell, trap, card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation. So this is a spell, trap, negate activation. And then once per turn during the end phase, we can either set one Exort or one Obliterate spell from our deck to the spell trap zone, and this is basically everything that we are going to do. So we are setting the Exort Fires of Rage spell, and this is what our endboard will look like. We might have more Millennium monsters on the field if we have more of them in our hand basically, but this is basically the end field. So a spell, trap, activation, negate, and then our Exort's Fire of Rage. This card is always treated as an Exort and Obliterate card. If you control a level 10 or higher Exodia monster, which we do, we can destroy all cards our opponent controls. Obviously super strong, an entire board clear. If this card is in the graveyard except the turn it was sent there, we can banish and then activate one of those effects. Add one Forbidden One monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand to once again start our combo basically. Shuffle up to 5 Forbidden One monsters from your graveyard and or banishment into the deck, so recyclement. But this is rarely ever a duel that goes on over multiple turns. You want to establish this guy, and then you have this spell trap negate and an entire board clear, and you have the inherent summon negate with the Angel statue Azurune, and this is basically your combo. You will achieve this through a few different means, but all of them basically work the same way and they are very easy to understand. I think there's not much more that I need to show you here in terms of combo, but let's hop on right over to the deck profile and we will also read every card so that you understand what the other cards are doing, but it's basically very easy to understand. So let's look at this. So here's our deck list. Obviously we are playing all of the forbidden parts since we need to show them for our Millennium Ankh. So the chance of actually opening them in your starting hand is something like way less than 0.00001%, so it will basically never happen, but we need to have them in the deck in order to show them with the Ankh, which already tells you how good this deck probably is. This is one of the better anime decks, but having 5 mega bricks in the deck obviously does not help. Also, for some reason, they decided to ban on the new ban list the Village of the Spellcasters, which was definitely a card that you mained here in the extra deck. It says if you control a spellcaster monster, or if only you control a spellcaster monster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. And obviously this one is a spellcaster monster. You could also just summon an Exodia piece, but we have this forbidden now. So one of the big strengths of the deck, this floodgate here basically, is no longer available, unfortunately. We can play Shifter here, so it's in here. We have 2 Max Cs. Obviously it's just good. We want to pass our opponent's turn. We have triple Ash Blossoms, no brainer. Then we have Blue Eyes of the Heart. I am assuming we are getting all of the cards, so this is why you're seeing this here. This card is always treated as a Millennium card. We can discard this card to add 1 Millennium Ankh from deck to hand, so very nice. We can just discard this guy, get the Millennium Ankh that we need, our core card here, but this is not a body on the field, meaning we can't go into our Silhouette Rabbit here. And then it also says, once per turn possession, if your opponent normal or special summons a level 8 or higher monster and or a monster with 3000 or more attack while this card is in your graveyard, we can send that monster to the graveyard, and if you do special summon this card. So you could also go ahead with your Sangajin and search your Blue Eyes of the Heart instead of what I just showed you, the shield basically. And then you can also end up on your exact same endboard, but without the Silhouette Rabbit setting the Angel Statue Azul rune. But you have this in the graveyard as an additional interruption then, and you don't need to pay another 2000 life points. Then we have a Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures. The activation of your Millennium Ankh cannot be negated, also nice. Since I think you can Ash Blossom this, if I am correct here, from extra deck and shuffle into deck acceptor, and I'm not quite sure though now that I think about it, but however it is, the activation of your Millennium Ankh cannot be negated. You can only use once. If this card is in your hand, you can place it in your spell trap zone as a continuous spell like all the other ones. While this card is a continuous spell, you can either pay 2000 life points or reveal 1 Millennium Ankh in your hand, special summon this, and then you can add Weiju Temple, this card here. So this card adds any other monster, this card adds the Ankh, and this card adds the Temple. So basically everyone gets you into the other one, you could say. Then we have Sangajin, we already read him. Then we have Shield, and then we have, let's read this last actually. Then we have the Weiju Temple, which says during your main phase you can place 1 monster from your hand in your spell trap zone as a face-up continuous spell, then place 1 Millennium monster from your deck in your spell trap zone as a face-up continuous spell. So the Weiju Temple will basically always guarantee you access to, for example, your Sangajin or any other monster that can get you your Ankh. So everything here is basically designed to get into the Ankh to special summon the boss monster. So super easy to understand. And then this also says if a face-up Millennium monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place it in your spell trap zone as a face-up continuous spell instead of sending it to the graveyard. Very nice, because then you can use it once again. So everything is designed to get into our boss monster here. Then we have the Millennium Ankh, which we have just read, and then we have the Obliterate Blaze. You don't need to play this, but you can. I think it's quite nice. It says 1 level 10 or higher monster on the field with Exodia in its original name gains these effects. So this card gains the effect of this card basically. You need to activate this then. This is then an ignition effect. You can be impermed here, or effect veiled, for example. You can pay half your life points for cost, destroy as many cards in the spell trap zone as possible, then equip 5 forbidden 1 monsters from your hand or deck to this card, so in this case the Unstoppable Exodia, as equip spells that each give it 2000 attack. Also, you cannot activate other cards' effects for the rest of this turn. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. So you can equip all of the Exodia pieces to the Unstoppable Exodia, and then this has 10,000 attack and has piercing damage. So this is a card that you can use on your opponent's turn if your opponent started basically to kill your opponent, if you can achieve this. And it's also why we need, or this card needs to destroy all spells and traps, because we need the space for our 5 Exodia pieces, right? So this card actually helps us, which is quite funny. We can start with our other cards here, with the Millennium cards, having them in our spell trap zone, and then we can destroy them to basically, kill our opponent if you want to do it like this. So I think it's really cool how they found a way to basically give us a playable Exodia deck, which, as I already said, is not that bad. This has topped some YCSs, definitely one of the better anime decks. Then I'm just playing 2 triple tactic talents, because why not? 3 actually, sorry. Then we are playing Pot of Prosperity, since we don't need the extra deck at all, so you can put in whatever you want here. And this is also why why we are playing the Super Poly. I think this makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of extra deck space. That's always nice with the Super Poly. You can play even more pots if you wanted to. You could also play the pot that banishes 3 or 6 from the extra deck. But keep in mind, if you banish all your unstoppable Exodias, this would be bad. But Super Poly, a very nice board breaker here since we have the extra deck space. Then there's the other rune. You can also go ahead and play the other continuous trap, which I'm blanking on the name right now. But in my opinion is way worse. Then we have triple infinite permanence, and then we have 2 Exort Fires of Rage, the board clear basically. So I have to admit, this is kind of a funny deck. You can also combine this with Fiendsmith if you wanted to, the new other engine, which I already have made an introduction video. If you have not seen that, go check that out in the top right corner. Then we have triple the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. Then we have our stuff for the Super Poly here. And then it doesn't really matter what else you play here. You can exchange these for any rare or super rare that you have. You don't need this very expensive stuff. There's an SP, there is the very useful Silhouette Rabbit. Then I have an Underworld Goddess in here, Nightmare Phoenix, Ausa, if you ever want to revive your opponent's Millennium monsters, if that ever comes up. Never will, probably. Psy-Frame Lord Omega, Psychic End Punisher, a Nightmare Cerberus to clean up something, and the Moon also if you want to play Fiendsmith. But as I already said, everything after these cards here are not really that important, so they can be whatever. You can also let this place basically play without 15 extra deck cards, since you only need your Unstoppable Exodia. In an extreme world, you can also play only the 3 Unstoppable Exodias and be fine, since this is what the deck wants to accomplish. So very, very easy, very straightforward. I think a lot of people will love this deck. Let's see how expensive this will be. I'm very interested. You will need 3 of this, so this is already an ultra rare, but we will see. Let me know in the comments what you think of this deck. Hopefully you liked my little guide here. If you have any further questions, please write them in the comments, and we will see each other tomorrow, hopefully, or maybe the next days with the new content. I'm very excited. Hopefully you are too. I wish you a lot of fun on release day. Go ahead and check out my stream if you are so inclined to, and we will see each other in the next one.